So at this point, what I'm going to do again is I'm going to answer some questions for some certain interval identification that's a little bit more challenging. So in this example here, I'm asking you to write the interval below the given pitch. So right here we have a C flat, right? And it's asking for an augmented second below the C flat. So step one is to just write in the letter that's the second. If this is C, we know it's some kind of B. If we then look and we say, listen, let's just forget this C flat thing for right now, because that's a little complicated. C, B. So B here, is C in the B major scale? No. That would be a C sharp. This is a half step lower. So if this was just C natural in B, that would be a minor second. But this is C flat in B. So it's really the same and harmonically the same pitch. So to make it a minor second, I'd have to make it a B flat. So B flat would turn it into a minor second. B double flat would turn it into a major second. B triple flat would be our augmented second that it's asking for. But we don't go up to triple flats or triple sharps. So this is theoretically not a possible interval for us to write. And that's how you would figure it out step by step. Again, C flat to B is enharmonically the same note. So I add a flat, make the interval a little bit larger. Now it's a minor second. I add another flat, it's now a major second. To get to that, it would have to be a triple flat. But since that's not something we use, it's not an interval that we will write. So you would just say, you just put an X here, say, no. We're not going to deal with augmented seconds based off of that pitch. But intellectually, you understand how you would figure that out. Let's take a look at this example. Here, we have an E flat, and it's asking for a diminished seventh below the E flat. So if we count backwards to get our letter, E, D, C, B, A, G, F. It's some kind of F. So step one is just write in the correct letter. Now, let's figure out what F to E flat is and see where we're at. So the question we ask is E, the top pitch, in the F major scale? E flat, rather. The answer is no. It's E natural. So if E to F is our major 7, that E flat makes it our minor 7. And this is asking for a diminished 7, which is a half step smaller than minor. Now, since the E flat's the given note, we are not allowed to change that. So what do we need to do to the bottom note to make that interval a half step smaller? The answer is raise it a half step. So we make that an F sharp, and that is our diminished 7. So again, try to keep in mind these step-by-step questions. And if you can ask yourself those questions, you'll be able to come up with the correct answer. Let's take a look at this example here. Here, we're in bass clef now, and we have an A flat. And it's asking for an augmented 7. So step one, find the letter. So we go count backwards. A, G, F, E, D, C, B. Some kind of B. So I write that in. Now, is A flat in the B major scale? The answer is no. A sharp is in the B major scale. So this is not, so A sharp would be major, A natural would be minor, A flat is diminished. So right now this is a diminished 7. Right now. So this, A flat to B, is actually a diminished 7 right now. So we want to make it an augmented 7. Since we can't change the top note, since that was given, we need to change the bottom note. So right now, A flat B, diminished 7. We make it a B flat, that's now a minor 7. B double flat, major 7. Now to get to augmented, we had to go to the triple flat. And we know that that's not theoretically something we do. So the real answer is no. That's not an interval that we theoretically recognize. What's most important is for you to understand how those intervals relate and how they expand and contract to go from the diminished 7. How, by adding that flat, making it bigger, we go through from diminished to minor to major to augmented. That process is something that's going to be very valuable, especially as we move forward in music theory and start doing these types of manipulations to pitches. All right, let's look at one more here in terms of writing an interval below. Here we have a B flat, and we're asking for an augmented fifth. So first the letter B, A, G, F, E. So I write in the E. And again, if you're doing this step by step, you'll find that things go faster and faster. And then I analyze. Is B flat in the E major scale? The answer is no. It's not. In the E major scale, we have a B natural. So E to B natural is our perfect fifth. This is a half step lower because it's got a B flat. Therefore, it would be what we have right now. Answer that question. Right now we have is a diminished fifth without making any accidental change to the E. So to expand that interval, make it larger, I make it E flat. That makes it a perfect fifth now. I put another flat, E double flat. Now it is an augmented fifth. We come up with our right answer. We're done. Let's take a look at writing the interval above. There's really, the only area for real confusion is if you are not using the bottom note to determine what that interval is. So if you say, if you don't say, is the top note in the major scale of the bottom note? That's where you can go wrong. You always have to do that, whether you're writing the interval below the pitch or above the pitch. So here, we're given an A flat. And it asks for a minor third above. So A, B, C. Notice that I don't try to use my A flat major scale. I just use the letters. When you're figuring out what letter to write, it doesn't matter sharps or flats. So I don't even say A flat, B flat, C. I don't use the A flat major scale at that point. I just go A, B, C, because that's the quickest way to do it. Now it's asking for a minor third. So here the question is C in the A flat major scale? Is C in the A flat major scale? And the answer is yes, it is. And you want that. That's why it's very important for you to know your major scales very, very quickly. So you can be A flat, B flat, C. So yes, but we want a minor third. So we can't have a C. It's got to be a C flat, a half step smaller. Here's an unusual question. It's asking for an augmented prime, which is the same thing as saying asking for an augmented 1 or an augmented unison. It means you're going to write the same pitch, except to make things augmented means to make it bigger by a half step. So E followed by E sharp. And that would be an augmented prime or augmented unison. Unison is almost not quite the right word because it's not the same pitch, but an augmented 1 would be more accurate to say. Good. Now, here's some just intervals already here, what you have to identify. So these are all the different permutations of the kinds of questions you're going to be asked to to identify and answer correctly. Here, F sharp, E flat. Now, kind of already answered that one here, right? But let's go through it if we're looking at it from this perspective. You have an F sharp, you have an E flat. First off, ignore the sharp, ignore the flat. Do not consider accidentals, just figure out the letters and the number. So, F, use your alphabet, G, A, B, C, D, E. It's some kind of seventh. That's what you write first. Then you ask the question. Is E flat in the F sharp major scale? The answer is definitely not. You never have sharps and flats in the same major scale. So we know it's not. Well, what type of E do we have in the F sharp major scale? The answer is E sharp. That's actually what we would expect. But we don't have that. So if F sharp to E sharp is our major 7, making it an E natural would turn it into a minor 7, and an E flat would turn it into a diminished 7. That's how we come up with our answer, by applying that modification. Sometimes it's helpful if you don't have the piano keyboard emblazoned in your mind, to keep in mind and just look at a piano. You can have a little piece of paper that has a piano keyboard printed out on it. You can just kind of like play your piano keyboard to see how those half steps can go up and down. Keeping in mind, of course, that between E and F, there is no other key, there's no black key, and between B and C, there is no black key. So that's where things get interesting. Good, so we've identified that first one. This next one, our pitches are C and B double flat, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. We're dealing with another 7th. We ask the question, is B double flat in the C major scale? No. What type of B is in the C major scale? Just a regular B, B natural. So if, I'm going to write down here, if C to B is our major 7, if we add a flat and lower that B, it becomes a minor 7. So C to B flat is our minor 7. And if we add another flat, make it a half step smaller, we get our diminished 7. And then we come up with our answer. C to B double flat is a diminished 7. But we figured it out. We said, okay, C to B, major 7. C to B flat, got to be minor 7. C to B double flat, diminished 7. All right. Next question, bass clef. A flat to F sharp. Again, just counting letters. A, B, C, D, E, F. It's a 6th. Is F sharp in the is F sharp in the A flat major scale? No. Well, what type of F do we find in the A flat major scale? In the A flat major scale, we have an F natural. So A flat to F natural would be a major 6. Here we have an F sharp. F sharp is a half step higher, making the interval a half step larger. What's a half step larger than major? Augmented. So this becomes an augmented 6. Then our final interval example to look at, we have a G and a D flat. G, A, B, C, D. It's a 5th. Is D flat in the G major scale? No. Well, what kind of D do we have? Just a regular D. So G to D would be our perfect 5th. Now our D is a half step lower. What's a half? What does perfect become when it becomes a half step smaller? Diminished. So this would be an example of a diminished fifth. So that is, again, your step-by-step process. So if you can memorize those series of questions to ask yourself, you'll be able to come up with the right answer. If you have all your major scales completely memorized, where you can say them very, very quickly. So if someone says, A flat major scale, you go A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G. You just know it. You're in good shape. Someone says B major scale, you go B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp. Did I do that right? B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp. Yeah, got it. And you need to know all of your major scales that quickly. If you don't know your major scales that quickly, you should continue to write out all 15 major scales. Now, I recommend you write them out really neatly, because what you're trying to do is create a photographic memory of the scales. If you write it out sloppy, your photograph is going to be blurry and it's going to be hard to make it out. So you write it out the same way every time, really, really clear, and then you kind of see the scale in your mind and you can say it. After you've written them out, play them on the piano. Every musician should be able to play piano, at least at a basic level. What's nice about the piano is that it's so visual. You actually get to look at your fingers and see the key you're pressing and how it relates to the keys around it. So fundamental piano skills are so valuable. So play your major scale on the piano. Then you get to see it and you get to hear it. At that level, you're really going to understand your scales and you're going to have them quickly. That's going to allow you to move on to more advanced theory. And so all of this is really very fundamental. And we're going to get into a lot of really interesting things. So to go back, just talking a little bit about those scales. If we have a D flat major scale, you know that the rest of the letters are going to be E, F, G, A, B, C, D. If you use your circle of fifths, you know that there's 5 flats. The order of the flats are B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat. Going up here, it's going to be D flat, E flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat, C, D flat. That's your major scale. So that's critical. You can use the circle of fifths to figure out how many sharps or flats there are. That's probably the quickest and easiest way to do it. And then you just need to memorize that. Now, when we get to other scales like B natural minor. So here we're going natural. So this was our major scale. B natural minor. Writing out your B major scale would be a good step 1. So B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, and then lowering the third a half step, so D sharp becomes D natural, the 6th, G sharp becomes G natural, and the 7th, A sharp becomes A natural. We now have our B natural minor scale. Another one, let's say G harmonic minor. First, I write out my G major scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. I then lower my third note a half step, so B becomes B flat. My 6th note, E, becomes E flat. I now have my G harmonic minor scale. And then lastly, and I'm going to do that right over here, E flat, melodic, minor. Now melodic minor, as you remember, has an ascending form going up and descending. So first I write out my major scale. E flat, G, F, A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat. I'm going to write it just going down, just write in the letters so that we can apply both directions. Now, since there's no bar line, I'm not going to rewrite those accidentals. I'm not going to rewrite the B flat, the A flat, and the E flat. Carries through. The ascending form of melodic minor asks you to lower the third note. So the G becomes a G flat. And then I'm good. All the way up. E flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat. However, descending is the natural minor version. Natural minor asks you to lower the third, sixth, and seventh note. Well, the third has already been lowered, and it's going to carry through. So I'm not going to do anything on the way down. But there was no C flat on the way up, nor was there a D flat. So I'm going to add in those flats. All right? So that's what we have when we talk about the E flat melodic minor scale. Ascending version, descending version. Sometimes it might be useful. We're not doing this with a key signature. If you were to be doing this with a key signature, there's a couple things that you need to keep in mind that are a little bit different. First off is identifying the appropriate key signature. When you're dealing with a minor scale, its relative major is always the third note of the scale. So the relative major to E flat minor is G flat major. G flat major, I'm going to give myself a little more room here, has 6 flats. B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, C flat. Again, we wrote this without key signatures first. So we check. E flat, still there. F, that's fine. G flat, fine. A flat, B flat. But here, if we were to use the key signature, now this is wrong. We would need to add a natural sign here to make sure that we're talking about our C natural. And we'd have to add a natural sign on the D to make sure we knew that was natural as well. If you remember from one of our earlier lessons, if you were to convert from natural minor to ascending melodic, you have to raise the 6 and 7. And in this situation, that's shown by putting the natural. So a key signature, the natural raises the 6 and 7 scale degree of half step. You cannot forget to restore the flat on the way down, however. And that's what makes ascending melodic minor and descending melodic minor one of the trickiest scales to keep in mind. Always ask yourself, are you using a relative major key signature, and therefore basically going from natural minor to whatever other form, melodic or harmonic minor? Or are you using the major scale and just adding the accidentals into the actual, right next to the actual notes? That's two different ways that you can come up with what should be the exact same answer. But keep in mind which one you're asking so you can ask yourself the right questions and do the right process, apply the correct formula. All right. Thank you.